This chapter is called Tricks and Tips, and this is the way I sew, the simple, easy way. There's nothing simpler than going from A to B in a straight line. Don't go around the block. I was a perfect teenager. Don't laugh, I really was. No. That's because I've constantly asked the question, why? You know, if my mother told me to do something, I'd go, why do I have to do that? So when it came to sewing, I asked the same question. Why do you make it so hard? When I would buy patterns, they frustrated me because all of the patterns came with directions that were done in black and white. Now, if you've purchased the other book and you've purchased this book, you can see that I like color. So all the directions in these books are done in big, bold colors so that you can see the details just a little bit better. So this is the way I told you that I've sewn all my life. And you all can thank Barbara Swanson for this chapter because she came to my house to sew with me one time and I kept saying to her, let me show you a trick, let me show you a trick, let me show you a trick. And she finally said, do you have these written down somewhere? And I didn't, so now they're all in one place and you can take advantage of them. So let's start right off right out of the gate by doing glue. This is called E6000. I've talked about it in a couple of other chapters. And E6000 is a permanent glue. You heard the word permanent. You're not going to take this apart. So when you use this glue, you want to make sure you're gluing something that's where you want it to be. This glue is washable. So if you glue two things together, you need to let it cure for at least 24 hours. Just let it sit for 24 hours. This is washable. You can still wash your garment when you use it. Do not put it in the dryer. In fact, you need to get into the habit of not putting any of your clothes in the dryer. Now, I put my clothes in there on air fluff to get the water out, and then I hang them to dry. You're going to keep your clothes nice and clean and smooth and unwrinkled if you do it that way. Just keep your clothes out of the dryer, especially your knits, because they don't like the dryer. They don't like that heat and tumbling. So E6000 is a wonderful glue. So let me show you how to glue buttons, because I love buttons. I love buttons as much as I love zippers. But most of the time, I can't find that exact button that I want to go. I love the buttons that are on this jacket because I think they're cute with the stripe. But every once in a while, I want something different. So let me show you some different things you can do. Let's just take this button because this one's kind of fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to sew that button on. Now I'd like to change it just a bit, and I can put one button on top of the other and glue the second button. So that just gives a little bit of detail. Look, if I put this button on top of that one, it changes the look of the button. So stacking buttons is fun. I like buttons that are off center as well. So I might sew this one on, and then I might go over here and glue that one in place. So use your glue to your advantage. Take a good look at it. I want to tell you a little hint that I've used lately, and it's because I do all the filming and things and take pictures. When I'm not really quite sure I like something, I take my cell phone and I take a picture of it because I can see it better at a distance than I can up close like that. So you may want to try that as well. If you're not sure if a button goes with a color that you're working with, take a picture of it and look at it like that. Sometimes it's just a little bit easier. It is for me, so that might work for you as well. Now, speaking of buttons, I don't like to hand sew, I'm sorry to say. So I like to use safety pins to put my buttons on, and you can see these are all put on with a safety pin. Now, the garment behind me is from the master pattern. It is the plain shirt. You can see it has a scoop neck and it has long sleeve. It's just a plain t-shirt right off the master pattern. So let me show you how you can take this one and jazz it up, and I'm going to jazz it up with buttons. So if I simply put a strip right down the center and I put the buttons on, look how cute that is. Now, one of the things that I like about doing things like this is that I have a 2-for-1. If I can wear it like this for a couple of times and I don't particularly like it, I can take this strip off and go right back to plain. If you find some kind of detail that you can put on it, it's great. Now let me show you these buttons. These buttons were put on with great big fat safety pins. That's because I travel with them. But they do sell button safety pins. And if you look at them very carefully, let me pull them up over here, they literally are angled, and that's for the shank of the button. Now you can't use this on buttons that have holes in them. This is for shank buttons. So I kind of look for shank buttons when I look for something special, something different. But safety pins really save you time. We are all taught to floss, so I'm going to show you something different you can do with dental floss. Dental floss is really great when you sew buttons on. Did you know that? Because it makes it stronger. Now, I just talked about E6000, so let me give you another little hint on E6000. If you will put a drop of that on the back of the button that you sew on, or anything that you sew on, that's going to stay on forever and ever because that glue actually glues that knot. And when you sew on with dental floss, when you sew a button on with that, then again, you want to make sure that you put a drop on it. I'm waiting for them to make dental floss that comes in black. That would be really great. Then we could sew the buttons on. But I want to show you something you can do with dental floss, and this is really great when you want to gather something, and you don't want to do those 2 rows of basting stitches, and then no, that's a pain in the neck. All you have to do is lay down a piece of dental floss and zigzag over the top of it. Secure one end of it, and you're going to secure the one end by simply wrapping this around a pin, straight pin, like this, because sewing over that dental floss at the end really is not going to hold it in place. So you need to wrap it around a straight pin, and then watch. All I have to do is pull, and I have beautiful gathers. Now, the best thing that I can say about the dental floss when you do things like this, when you do those 2 rows of basting stitches and then you pull the bobbin thread, it's kind of hard to even up your gathers, but with dental floss you can. It's very simple. All you're going to have to do is to stitch, you would stitch this to whatever it is that you're going to gather up, and then clip the dental floss and pull it out, and you can even use it for your beautiful teeth. Let's talk about separating zippers. Now, obviously, you know separating zippers are in a jacket or a coat, like the coat behind me. And I love separating zippers. This is what I want to just kind of put into your brain. When you buy zippers, you need to buy really good zippers. You don't want to go to all of this work and then after 2 or 3 wearings have the zipper not work anymore. So usually when I buy a zipper, if the zipper is not in a package, while I'm standing in line to check out, I will hold on to this zipper and zip and unzip it so that I know that I've got a really good zippers. There's lemons in zippers like there's lemons in anything else. So it's up to you to make sure that it has a really good zip and unzip. I love Riri zippers. They're just my favorite zippers because consistently they're really, really good. When you buy a Riri zipper, it is actually Riri, the name R-I-R-I, is forged right into the zipper. Now, here's your all-time favorite thing to do with zippers. I don't care where you buy your zippers. I don't care what kind of zippers you're using. I don't care how big they are or how little they are. Always support your fabric to accept that zipper. Zipper tape, the tape the teeth are on, does not like fabric. End of story. And I see a lot of people clip this to make sure that it isn't going to work. You need French fuse. French fuse is a wonderful product. You need to support your zipper with it. If you put it all over your garment like I have on the jacket that I have on, then you're fine. You're ready to go. If you're making a jacket or a sweater that you don't want to put French fuse all over the whole thing, just take a strip and iron that strip onto wherever you're going to put the zipper. That goes for a flat front zipper, a side zipper, a back zipper, or a separating zipper, or even one that's just decorative. And that's what this is. It goes nowhere. Goes absolutely nowhere. But it has French fuse on it, so it lays perfectly flat. You know, one of the things that I hate the most are bacon zippers, and they go like this. And they're very unattractive, and we don't need to have that in our sewing. So French fuse is your answer all the way across the board for any kind of zipper that you're using. Now, if you look at the jacket behind me, the jacket behind me has a separating zipper in it, and this is Angora, and it's a beautiful piece of fabric, but again, it needed to be supported as well, so there is a piece of French fuse in there. French fuse is a tricot interfacing, so it's a tricot piece of fabric that has glue on the back side, so always use your pressing cloth when you put it on a fabric just use your pressing cloth when you put it on, period. And then that way you'll never screw that up. Now, let's talk about separating zippers after it's in. Remember, I told you that that zipper tape does not like your fabric. So you're going to wind up with your zipper, once you put it in, kind of going like this, even though you've used your French fuse. So don't call me and fuss. I'm going to show you how to fix it. And this is a really simple fix. You have an ironing board. Once you're going to finish your jacket, zip it up, put it over your ironing board like this. Now, I have it on a pad so you can see a little bit better. Then you're going to take straight pins. You're going to put a pin at the bottom of your jacket, one on either side of that zipper, and you're actually going to stick this right into your ironing board. Now, if you don't have a padded ironing board, you need one, so you make sure that you can stick that in, and then you're going to pull as hard as you possibly can, and you're going to put another pin up at the top on either side of the zipper as much as you can. Take your press cloth, put it over the top of the zipper, and you want to steam it really, really good. Let it alone. Let it sit. Let it cool. And then you can take it off. And I promise you, you will never have to press this again. You've taught that zipper tape to accept that fabric. So you're good to go. Let's talk about exposed zippers. You see them everywhere now. But if you're going to use an exposed zipper, that means it's on the outside of the garment. You see the tape and everything else. You might want to think about gluing down parts that you don't want to see, or get rid of parts you don't want to see. Because an exposed zipper means it's not included in the seam allowance. So here's the nth degree of exposed zippers. I made this top, and you can see that all of the zippers are exposed. They're all sitting on the outside, tape and everything. When I chose to do this top, what I did was I used a separating zipper so I had no tabs hanging at the bottom. When you do something like this, you have a nice clean finish, so just think about it in that way. Now, I did not want to have these undo themselves at all, so I put a drop of E6000 to actually glue that together so that it wouldn't go anyplace. Now, when I put these on the shirt, I put these on the shirt with steam-a-seam. You know, if you would try to put straight pins in this to stitch it on, you'd have a mess. So by using the steam-a-seam, you can glue all of these zippers in place. If you don't like it, you can pull them off and put it someplace else. Once you're happy with the way those zippers show, then all you have to do is take your press cloth, put it over the top, use your iron, and steam those on. Now, once you've steamed them, you own them. So they're there. Now you can go back and stitch them, and it's really, really easy. So another thing that you can do is to decorate those zippers. And if you look at this is just a piece of trim that I found in my stash, and you can put this right over the top of the zipper, and that can go right on the outside of your seam, and it looks really, really cute. So that's exposed zippers. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is needle position. And this is really kind of funny to me because, again, this is something that I've used all my life. A lot of you, when you use, you don't even think about a needle position, but I do all the time. I put my needle to the far left. And when I put it to the far left, when I'm making any of these tops, that gives me a 1/2 inch seam allowance if I guide my fabric right next to the edge of the foot. So it's an instant 1/2 inch. Don't get out your tape measure, because it might be a little bit more or a little scunch less. That's your 1/2 inch, that's your sewing machine. So it works really, really well. So does mirror image. And a lot of you think about mirror image in your embroidery work, but I think about it in my top stitching. So almost every machine you would ever purchase has a mirror image button. Some of them look like this. They look like a little diamond shape, and it makes your needle go back and forth. So this is what I do. I have my needle in the far left position, then I hit that mirror image button, it goes in the far right position. Instead of going back to another button, it's easy just to go back and forth with the mirror image. Where do I use it? I use it when I'm doing top stitching on any garment. So I will top stitch with the needle in the left, then I click that mirror image, the needle goes to the right, and I use the exact same guide to sew by. You have perfect 2 straight stitches, so you have a beautiful top stitch. Speaking of top stitching, let me give you a little hint about top stitching. Whenever you top stitch anything, and it doesn't matter if you top stitch the same color just to hold that seam down, when you top stitch, use a heavier thread when you're doing it as a decorative stitch. you want to make sure that you use the 12 weight thread or even a different kind of thread. But then I know there's buttonhole twist thread. You could use that if you wanted to too. So when you use a thicker thread, you get a much cleaner top stitch look to it. And people are going to be amazed at how pretty that looks. Now you need to sew straight. Sorry to tell you that, but you do need to sew straight. So this is a magnetic seam guide. And a magnetic seam guide is something that will help you sew straight. It fits right on the metal part of your sewing machine, and you can move it back and forth. It's a little tool. It's an inexpensive tool. You can find them anywhere. I love my magnetic seam guide. But I always get people that say to me, oh my gosh, I can't use that. I can't use my magnetic anything next to my computerized machine. You would have to have a magnet this big stuck on the screen of your machine to do anything to it. So don't worry about it. If you're not comfortable with it, go ask your dealer. Say, can I use that on my machine? And most dealers are going to say, absolutely, you can. But if you still don't believe me, and that's fine, I know people that don't believe me. If you eat broccoli or you eat asparagus, they come with a great big fat rubber band, and they're usually a blue rubber band, and that fits right over the free arm of your machine, and you can move this back and forth to keep your sewing straight and to keep your top stitching straight. French Fuse is probably the most perfect product ever made. And what it is tricot that has glue on the back side of it. And I've used it over and over and over again in a lot of these videos. And I use it over and over and over again in a lot of my garments. If you put zippers in something like this, you stabilize the garment with the French Fuse. But I'm going to show you something else that I love for it. A lot of ladies have sloping shoulders. I can't fix that. Shoulder pads can fix that, but I can't fix that. Now, I don't like shoulder pads. They drive me crazy. And when I use shoulder pads, I always feel like a football player. So I want to give you a soft alternative to it, and that's French Fuse. I sell this on my website. It comes in white and it comes in black, so choose whatever you want. The best part of French Fuse, it comes 60 inches wide. There is not another product that comes 60 inches wide. I save this for my knits because French Fuse, and that's the brand name, I didn't make that up, French Fuse loves knits. Not so much woven, but they love it loves knits. Now when I use it on woven fabric, if you use it in the facing and the collar, you're perfect. Just don't put it all over the garment because it doesn't like woven. It stretches. It's a knit. So that's why it's partial to knits. Now let me show you a little trick because this is a wonderful little trick. And you can do this to a garment you've already made and fix it that way. You can just cut a shape. And if you look at this, it doesn't even look like a shoulder pad. It's just two long pieces. Cut the shape of that garment itself. And you want 2 layers. You can do 3 if you want to, but you want at least 2 layers. So 2 layers on each shoulder. Fuse that to your garment. Sew the sleeves in, sew the neck edge in, and catch it in both of those seams. And every time you wear the garment, you're going to say to yourself, boy, this really looks good, because it gives your shoulders that much more definition, and it really does help a lot. You can also use a yoke, and I did that in another chapter, so I won't go over that again, but you can use the French Fuse in a yoke. If you look at the jacket that I have on, probably in the last couple of months, this is my favorite jacket. I made this jacket because I love the color. I love the color because I wanted it to go with this beautiful necklace, and it goes beautifully with it. So the reason that I'm talking about this is this was a really soft knit. It had no structure whatsoever, but the jacket has a lot of structure. It even has pockets in it, and it has a lot of structure. And the reason it does is because I've used 3 layers on the front, 2 fronts. I've used 3 layers on the back of this jacket. I've used 2 layers in the collar of this jacket, and I've used 1 layer in the sleeves. So yes, you can stack these layers up and make your fabric do what you want your fabric to do, which is golden, I have to tell you. So that's French Fuse. Again, I sell it on my website in black and white. Now, I'd like to talk about a foot, and this is the foot that comes on most machines, and that's what you would use it for. But I like a Teflon foot. When you work with this kind of fabric, this is ITY, stands for interlock twist yarn. When you use fabric like this, sometimes you get frustrated. If you will simply change your foot to your Teflon foot, then it glides and it really works beautifully. You don't own a Teflon foot, back to your machine dealer and buy one. If you're in a hurry, you can make one. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We're just going to take Scotch tape, and all you have to do is take a little piece of it, put it right on the bottom of your foot like this. Wrap it around like this. You want to punch a hole here where the needle is going to go through, and you have created an instant Teflon foot. So you can sew with any kind of fabric. Now, I'm very serious about any single time you're sewing with a piece of fabric and your machine just doesn't like what you're sewing with, put your Teflon foot on and it is golden. Now I want to get emails from you telling me that worked great for you, because it does. The other thing I want to tell you is you need a clean iron. When you start sewing, every single time you start a new project, you need to look at the sew plate and make sure that it's clean. I'm going to show you a really fast way to clean it. These are those scrub sponges, and I think they're called Mr. Clean. I don't know of anybody else that makes it, but I would bet you that any of your grocery stores, they make their own brand of it. You're going to get this wet. And then you're going to take a pair of pliers. And the reason you want pliers is you don't want to hold on to this and scrub, because all the heat from your iron is going to come through it. So what I do is I get it wet, I fold it in half, I use my pliers on this to hang on to it, just like this. Then I heat this iron up and I scrub, and all that stuff comes off of it. So whatever you have ironed over, and I have to tell you, you're not sloppy. We all do this. It just kind of sucks on the bottom of your iron, but you need to get it off, and this little tool will get you a clean iron every single time. I have not been to your house, so I don't know what your stash looks like, but I know what most people do. They very nicely fold their fabric and then they stack it up like this, and it looks beautiful. But when you want to pull the middle one out, then it all falls apart. So I don't ever fold my fabric like that. I roll my fabric. So I take it like this, and if you've ever looked at the video on my sewing room, you'll see all the fabric has been rolled and it's stacked like that. It's easy to pull a roll out, a lot easier to pull a roll out than it is to fold them and stack them. So I want to show you another little hint. This is a pool noodle. You've seen these in pools. You've probably played with these in pools. And I've bent this so that I can show you exactly what I'm going to do with it. This is an old pair of scissors, kitchen scissors. Do not use your good scissors on this. You can even use a knife to cut these apart if you want to. But I'm just going to cut this apart like this. And I'm only going to use part of it, because a lot of fabric that you buy nowadays really should not be folded. And what comes to mind immediately is cork. I've made some cork purses and I love them, but you can't fold up that cork and put it away. If you've noticed, if you're buying a piece of fabric that is on a roll, that means you need to keep it rolled, because it will get a crease in it. We don't want that. So let me show you how simple it is just to use this pool noodle. So I'm just going to roll my fabric up just like this. And I can store it this way without doing any kind of folding or bending or creasing or anything like that. So it works really, really well. Make the noodle, match your fabric, and you're ready to go. See, you thought you were going to throw all of these away, didn't you? Then you aren't going to do that. So the next thing I want to talk about is sewing in the middle of the night. Do you all sew in the middle of the night? Because I do. And have you ever had your marking pen go away and it won't mark anymore, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you need to mark something? Well, let me show you how to get a little more life out of it. Take the bottom of this off, take alcohol, pour just a little bit in the bottom, shake it up, and that pen will last you until you're finished sewing, and it's really great. It's just a great way to extend it. Now, another thing I want to talk about is disposing of your needles, your sewing machine needles, and your rotary cutters. You should not just throw those in your garbage can for a lot of reasons. One is when that garbage goes into a dump, dogs get into it and they can be cut as well as humans can be cut. So we don't want anybody to cut themselves on any of these things. Save your old medicine bottles, save your old tins, and you can put your needles and your rotary cutters in these, and then you're not going to have anything cut. One of the things that I do suggest talking about needles is that you change them. I'm amazed how many of you don't change your sewing machine needles. I change my needle for every project I'm working on. If you have a nice sharp needle, your sewing is going to go a lot better. I asked somebody not too long ago, have you changed your needle lately? And they said, no. And I said, how old's your sewing machine? It's about 10 years. You've never changed your needle? Now, if you've never changed your needle, one of two things are happening. You're not sewing. That's probably what's happening. Or you didn't know you were supposed to. Schmetz has a very good video on their website that talks about changing your sewing machine needle, because every needle has a purpose with the project that you're sewing on. So make sure that you change your needle often and you'll have wonderful sewing. I want to give you a little hint when you trace off your pattern onto this pattern ease. And this was I know this sounds really funny. This was a tool somebody gave me in a class one time, and I have absolutely loved it. So when you trace your sizes off and you trace your numbers off and all that kind of stuff, if you will just go to any store, you want to buy a first grade pencil, and it's called My First Pencil. Now the only thing about it, it has really soft lead, but it makes beautiful, 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 beautiful marks on your patternees. So it's really simple to follow the lines that you are drawing on that pattern with this first grade pencil. When you buy this, go buy a pencil sharpener, just a little pencil sharpener to have along with it, because the lead runs out really fast. It runs out fast because it's soft. These are absolutely wonderful when you're tracing off patterns, and it just makes it easier. I see so many of you struggle with a mechanical pencil, and the mechanical pencils are kind of hard to draw lines with. This draws you great big fat lines, and it looks great every single time. So buy yourself some first grade pencils. Plaid fabric is really popular right now, so I want to give you a hint on cutting out your garment. You can't cut out a garment, not pay any attention to the plaid, and then expect it to match. It's not going to. That needs to match when you cut it out. You need single layer of your fabric, not double. You need single layer of your fabric so you can see where you're going. Now, I'm going to do a pair of pants. Obviously, this is a little pair. But if you see I have a grain and crease line, you want to make sure that you look at that grain and crease line. Remember, on your pants pattern, I make you measure from the grain and crease line to the selvage or the folds. You don't have to do that with this, because you have a grain and crease line right here on your fabric, because all I have to do is to line that up with any of those stripes, and I know that it's perfectly even. Now, this is how you match a plaid. You see the point of the pair of pants is right in the center of this box. All right, so that's right in the center of this box. I'm looking at this point as well. When I go to lay the back on, those are the only two points you have to look at. When I go to lay the back on, I just need to make sure that when I cut that out, that is also in the same center of that box. This grain and crease line is straight, and this is on the same part of that plaid. So as long as you match up these 2 points and you make sure that this grain line is straight on the plaid, you are good to go, and you will have the perfect pair of pants, because all of your plaids are going to match. You would do exactly the same thing if you were making a jacket or you were making a top. Now, one other hint that I want to give you. Let's just say that you're looking at this plaid going, oh, I have no idea what to do. Lay your garment on the bias. When you lay your garment on the bias of a plaid, it doesn't have to match. So it looks really, really good. So lay it on the bias and you're still golden. I hope you enjoyed the video. Now it's time to check out the website. Everything is on there. You can purchase the pattern, the book, all the notions I talked about. You can join the Fit Club and check out the classes where I'm teaching. And be sure to follow me on Facebook.